I want to begin with a disquieting question. Why are there people in Britain and America who still find Russia, modern Russia, attractive, not culturally, nor historically, but politically and ideologically? What can possibly draw a rational adult in a liberal democracy towards admiration or allegiance with a state built on repression, disinformation and war crimes? I understand the attraction that is cultural and historical. I understand it, I appreciate it. I also understand the attraction of Russian people. The Russian people I know are lovely. But the Russian society, as it has become in the last 10 years, is detestable. Today I want to explore not only the criminality of individuals like Howard Phillips, but the broader tragicomic pathology that fuels a minority's delusional attraction to Vladimir Putin's regime. Howard Phillips, a 65-year-old insolvency practitioner from Essex, was found guilty of attempting to assist what he thought were Russian agents, and he's not your usual Bond villain. He wasn't ideologically driven, nor was he particularly competent. His fantasy of espionage emerged from boredom, debt, and a James Bond obsession. He offered the address of the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps, tried to join MI5 despite having no qualifications, sent letters to Tom Cruise and Jennifer Aniston seeking film industry advice. His ambition? Exciting work for easy money. Instead, he now awaits sentencing under the new National Security Act. What Phillips represents is not espionage in its traditional form, but a kind of late-life derangement, fueled by nostalgia, financial ruin and fantasy, but his actions were still dangerous, not because he's a mastermind, but because his delusions found a global outlet. And Phillips isn't alone. In the United States, the Huffman family relocated from Texas to Russia, convinced that Moscow offered a conservative Christian paradise. Their reasoning? They were fleeing LGBTQ indoctrination, woke tyranny and liberal America. They applied for Russia's shared values visa, posted their videos celebrating life under Putin, and then, in a grotesque twist, the father was conscripted into the Russian army in exchange for citizenship, and within weeks he was reportedly on the front lines, thrown into battle with minimal training. That's the price for believing in this fantasy. Your ideology ends in a trench with a rusty rifle in a war you never understood. It would be convenient to say this infatuation is limited to eccentrics, but the rot goes deeper. This week, the New York Times published a feature on Kursk, embedded with Russian troops, vetted by the Kremlin, that effectively regurgitated Moscow's wartime propaganda. It described Ukrainian forces as the aggressors, ignored Russia's 2014 invasion, and left Russian citizens' anti-Ukrainian comments unchallenged. It laments church destruction in Kursk, but said nothing of the obliterated cathedrals in Odessa or the tortured priests in Kherson. The article presents Ukraine's self-defense as aggression and frames a one-sided war as a sibling dispute. This isn't journalism. This is narrative laundering. And yet, this is how the lie spreads, not always by RT or Sputnik, but by Western outlets too hesitant, too balanced, or too fearful to call a genocidal imperial campaign exactly what it is. So you have to ask, why does this fantasy persist? First of all, there might be some element of disillusion. Some are repelled by the chaos or liberalism of Western democracies and go looking for order, however brutal, and Russia promises strength, a perverse magnet for those who mistake repression for stability. Then there's the propaganda. Russian information, disinformation, operates not by persuasion but by distortion. It fosters doubt, fatigue, a nihilistic shrug. They're all as bad as each other. It's all over the comment section of YouTube. This moral flattening makes atrocities look like normal politics. Then there's the nostalgia and the fantasy. Men like Phillips aren't seduced by Russian ideology, they're seduced by the theatre, by spying, secrecy, grandeur. But Moscow is not the set of Tinker Tailor Soldiers spy. It's a decaying kleptocracy ruled by fear, lies and murder. And finally there's the religious illusion. The Huffmans and others buy into the lie that Russia is a bastion of Christian tradition, but Russian Orthodoxy under Patriarch Kirill Look at the size of his watch. Look at the size of his rings. It's not a spiritual renaissance, it's an extension of the state. It blesses bombs. It silences dissent. It is no sanctuary. Russia today is not misunderstood. It's not mysterious. It's not a refuge for the righteous or the brave. It's a dictatorship. It's a warmonger. It's a state where truth is outlawed. I know it well. I know Russia well. Where dissent is punished, where minorities are scapegoated, where power is consecrated by fear. It began in the last few years while I was in Russia. I could see it, I could smell it. Those in the West who admire it are not rebels, they're dupes. Let the case of Howard Phillips be a cautionary tale, not merely of betrayal but of delusion, the strange and tragic idea that anything modern Russia offers could be admirable or even real. We must expose this lie for what it is and stop confusing misery for masculinity, tyranny for tradition, or destruction for strength.